Okay, son. We're all set.
Is it really going to do all that, Dad? Is it going to do all what?
It's going to circle this room twice, fly into the dining room, fly back in here, and land.
Are you sure, Uncle Martin?
Oh, sure. Operates by remote control.
It won't hit the lamps, will it, Martin?
Will you relax? I'm the oldest pilot on the line. Okay, here we go.
It's not flying. They sure don't build them like they used to.
It's probably defective equipment.
Probably. Kathy, where's Patty?
She's getting ready for a date, Aunt Natalie.
Say, who put this picture of Richard in the living room?
Patty thought it would look nice here.
She was wrong. Tell Patty she can just put it back in her room.
Tell Patty she can just put what back in her room?
This picture of Richard. What are you all dressed up about?
Big date.
You know, I did him an injustice. I didn't really appreciate him. But you know something? He's handsome, warm, brilliant, and punctual. I'm really a very lucky girl. I'll go let him in.
Richard is handsome, warm, and brilliant?
To each his own.
Oh, I know, but that's ridiculous. I've never seen Patty so worked up about a date with Richard before. She usually takes him for granted.
Yes, she acts as though this is a special occasion.
I think it is. Mom, Papa, I'd like you to meet my date. Colonel Jeffrey Davis III.
Meet Kathy, who's lived most everywhere, from Zanzibar to Berkeley Square. But Patty's only seen the sights a girl can see from Brooklyn Heights. What a crazy pair! But they're cousins, identical cousins all the way. One pair of matching bouquets, different as night and day. Where Kathy adores a minuet, the ballet russe, and crepe Suzette. Our Patty loves to rock and roll, a hot dog makes her lose control. What a wild duet, still they're cousins, identical cousins, and you find they laugh alike, they walk alike, at times they even talk alike. You can lose your mind when cousins are two of a kind.
Jeff is a cousin of Harriet's. You remember my girlfriend who moved to Indiana Harbor? Well, she wrote me that Jeff was coming to New York. And I tried to get him a date, but Kath was tied up and all the other girls were busy. So I guess he's stuck with me.
I was lucky.
Oh, I'll get it.
You're a newspaper editor, aren't you, Mr. Lane?
Yes.
And a great one, if you don't mind my saying so, sir. I'm editor of my school newspaper, and we use the Chronicle as a model of journalism.
Do you really?
Yes, sir.
Do you know anything about airplanes, Colonel?
It's a Beechcraft Musketeer.
It's a good model. It just won't fly. Dad couldn't get it airborne.
Did you turn the propeller, sir?
Well, what do you know?
I just came over to help you out.
Help me out of what?
Well, you said you were stuck with this cousin of a friend of yours from out of town.
Yeah, well, you know how these things are. It's a drag.
I know, that's why I came over. I thought if I went along, it'd make it a little easier.
Yeah, that's very nice of you, Richard, but it's my drag, and I sure wouldn't want to impose on you.
Well, listen, if a fella can't do a favor for his gal, who can he do one for?
You're absolutely right. We'll talk about it tomorrow.
Well, aren't you going to invite me in?
Well, I would, Richard, but you know how nervous these small-town boys get in front of strangers.
Boy, you're really stuck, aren't you?
Yeah, well, I can handle it. Why don't you just
Well,
run
listen,
along now?
I'll just go in and say hello and put him at ease.
Rich, look who's here, everybody. It's Richard Harrison.
Uh-oh. Hello, Richard.
Richard? Hi, folks.
Richard, I'd like you to meet Colonel Jeffrey Davis. This is Richard Harrison, a friend of mine.
It's a pleasure, Mr. Harrison.
Colonel?
Please call me Jeff.
Won't you sit down, Richard?
Thanks, I will.
Harriet gave me a list of places for you to show me.
Oh, sure. I wouldn't want to let good old Harriet down.
How long are you going to be in New York?
Well, I'm not sure. I'd like to stay here as long as possible.
It's very hot in New York during the summer.
Do you go to the same school as Patty?
That's right. I'm captain of the football team.
Oh, I'm afraid I never made captain. I play end.
Well, I guess that's better than nothing.
Yes, I was lucky. It's the first time anyone from our academy was chosen to play all-conference.
You're all conference?
Wow, can I have your autograph?
Oh, I don't think sports are really that important. I'm much more excited about the Oxford scholarship I just received.
You received an Oxford scholarship?
Yes, sir. That's one of the reasons I'm in New York.
That's great, Jeff.
Yeah, that's great.
The Oxford committee insisted upon seeing me in person.
Why, weren't they sure about you?
I suppose not. You see, I'm the first student they ever had with an A-plus average.
Yeah, that's remarkable.
I guess we better get going, Jeff.
Sir, what time would you like Patty home?
What time would we like Patty home?
Well, why don't you give yourselves time for a soda after the theater?
Yes, ma'am. I'll deliver her to her doorstep at 11:37.
Yeah, that sounds fine.
Good night, folks.
Thank you so much for the hospitality, Mrs. Lane.
Not at all. You must come to dinner sometime.
I'd be honored.
What about Thursday?
Well, thank you, ma'am.
They have spaghetti on Thursday.
Would you like to come to dinner, Richard?
No, thanks. I'll be very busy that night.
Good night. Oh.
Good night.
Well, he's quite a boy.
Take away the uniform and what have you got?
Just an all-conference end who's won an Oxford scholarship.
Good night, Ross.
Me and my big mouth. Good night, everybody. Don't forget to brush your teeth. I brushed them yesterday. Ross? All right. But I'm going to wear them out before I grow up.
Richard, don't you think you should have gone with Patty and Jeff?
Of course not. You don't know much about strategy, do you, Kathy?
Strategy?
Sure. I figure a little bit of Colonel Davis goes a long way. By 11:37, Patty's going to be sick of the sight of him.
Jeffrey Davis III is absolute heaven. His family owns a 1,000-acre estate in West Virginia. We're all invited down for the month of August. They have horses there. One of them just won the Kentucky Derby. Jeff used to race in the steeplechase before he got interested in chess. He's the national junior champion. He's so brilliant I can't understand what he's saying half the time. Are you going to see him again? Let's see, what's tomorrow? Can't you take him off my hands for a few days? Jeff? Richard. Oh. Did you see the way he shambled in here?
Hi, folks. I'm captain of the football team. What are we having for dinner? Oh, boy.
Apples.
They serve spaghetti on Thursday. You go bowling? Shakespeare. What's that?
You know you adore Richard. Of course I do. Jeff's a whole new way of life. I wonder if it would help Richard to go to a military academy. I don't know. I have to make up my mind which one I'm going to the big dance with a week from Saturday. Have they both asked you? They will. Kath, would you mind going with the one that the word you're fumbling for is ditch. I already have a date for the dance with George. Oh, well, then I guess one of them is out of luck. Poor devil.
Hi, Patty.
Hi, Rich. Oh, thank you.
What time did you get home last night?
11:37.
Oh? How'd it go?
Okay.
Well, I guess these duty things can be a pain in the neck.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, I got a surprise for you.
What's that?
I've got 2 tickets to the Jerry Mulligan concert tonight.
Gee, Richard, I'm sorry. I won't be able to go with you.
Well, why not?
I promised Jeff I'd go out with him tonight. You know, for Harriet's sake.
Sure, well, where do you have to go with him?
To the Jerry Mulligan concert.
Why, Clyde.
Oh, good evening, Richard. Patty's out.
I know. That's not why I came.
We've already had dinner.
That isn't why I came here.
Well, is there something I can do for you?
Oh, no, I just thought it'd be nice if we got to know one another better.
Oh, I see. Well, sit down, Richard.
Oh. Thanks.
Patty has been seeing quite a lot of Jeff lately, hasn't she?
That's why I came. I don't mind if Patty goes out with another guy now and then, but the Colonel, I don't know how you compete with him. He's superhuman.
Well, no one is superhuman.
Jeff is. He can do anything better than I can, and I'm good.
Well, Patty seems very impressed with him.
I'll say, I have a stamp collection, Jeff has a bigger one. I have a souped-up car, Jeff has 2. He dances the Watusi, and I'm still learning how to do the twist. He beat me at Indian wrestling, ping pong. If he was a girl, I'd marry him myself.
Well, what can I do, Richard?
Oh, I thought maybe you could give me some advice or something. I mean, you're a man of the world. How do you compete with Superman?
Well, every new boy seems glamorous and more exciting, Richard.
Yeah, well, thanks a lot, Mr. Lane.
Richard. You know, there was a Jeff in my life.
There was?
Yeah. When I was dating Mrs. Lane. He was a pilot, and he could do everything, too. Mrs. Lane was quite taken with him.
Well, what did you do? I mean, how'd you give him the deep 6?
Oh. Well, I just used a little strategy. See, I knew Mrs. Lane liked me, but we were in a kind of a rut. We'd always do the same things. Go to movies, bowling, football games.
Like Patty and me.
Exactly. So I started planning things that would intrigue her. See, every young girl likes to do things that are different once in a while. Now, there's a little lake about an hour and a half outside the city called Half Moon Lake.
Hi, mind if I join you?
Be my guest.
If you're not going to do anything tonight, I thought maybe you'd like to...
Gee, Rich, I'm afraid
I thought it'd be fun to go on a picnic to Half Moon Lake.
Picnic on Half Moon Lake? That sounds great. I've never done anything like that before.
You mean you'll come?
Sure. I thought you were going to suggest bowling or another movie.
What do you mean? You think I don't have any imagination? Yes, sir. Things are going to be a lot different around here from now on. Sam, my good fellow. Triple angel flips for my friends.
Sport.
Did Patty say what time she'd be home?
No. She and Richard went bird watching in Central Park.
Bird watching?
Yes. I don't know what's come over Richard. He's just full of plans that Patty loves. Reminds me of the days when I was going steady with Patty's father. He used to do things like that. I guess Patty's a lot like me.
Is she? Well, Mrs. Lane, what was it about Mr. Lane that appealed to you most?
Oh, I don't know. His helplessness, I suppose.
His helplessness?
Yes, women really have a very strong maternal feeling. I think I really fell in love with him the day he had a hole in his sweater and I decided to knit him a new one.
You know, Patty, this is the first sweater that anyone's ever knitted for me.
Oh. Well, you told me how cold it gets up at Oxford. Well, I couldn't very well let their star pupil freeze to death. Well, I guess I better call Richard and tell him I'll be late.
You sure he won't mind?
Of course not. Anyway, I'll be through with this in no time.
Of course, it's my feet that really get cold.
That's easy. I'll just knit you a pair of socks. What color do you like?
Oh, blue, green, gray, tan.
Richard, you're up against a pretty smart boy.
He's smarter than I am.
But you have a secret weapon.
I have?
Me.
You?
The other morning at breakfast, Patty was saying that one of the things she likes most in the world and hasn't done in years is riding a bicycle.
Gee, that was fun, Rich. I haven't been bicycle riding in years. Whatever made you think of it?
Well, I just put myself in your place and asked myself what you'd enjoy.
It's funny. I was just talking about it at breakfast the other day.
No kidding.
Yeah. I guess you really know me.
Yeah, I guess I do. Can we have a date tonight?
I'd love to, Rich. But Jeff asked me, and I half promised him I'd...
Have you ever been to an old-fashioned quilting bee?
When will you pick me up?
7:59.
I'll be ready. Bye.
Bye. Where am I going to find a quilting bee?
You know, Mrs. Lane, I was very interested in that conversation we had the other day.
Which conversation?
Well, the one about you and Mr. Lane and how you married him because he was so helpless.
Oh, I didn't say that.
Well, sure. Don't you remember? The maternal instinct?
Oh, I'm afraid you misunderstood me. Oh, women do have a strong maternal instinct, but they also want a man who's strong and who will dominate them.
I'll let you know when I make up my mind. Look who's here. Hi, Jeff. I was just...
On your feet. We are going out.
But I was...
Let's go. Bye, girls.
Wow, did you hear that? Talk about cavemen.
But he's not like that. Something's going on.
Too bad we don't have a daughter. She could be doing this.
Oh, I told Patty she didn't have to help tonight. She's getting dressed to go out.
Again? Who's the lucky boy? Richard, I suppose.
No, Jeff.
Jeff? Well, Richard took her bicycle riding, and she thought it was wonderful.
Oh, but then Jeff swept her off her feet, and I think it impressed her.
Oh, that doesn't mean anything. Richard has taken her picnicking and bird watching and...
Jeff needs her more. She knitted him a sweater and half a sock.
Natalie, you haven't been advising Jeff how to handle Patty, have you?
Why, no. He was just interested in the way I...
In the way you handled me.
Yes. Have you been advising Richard?
Yeah.
Oh, Martin.
You realize what's been happening. You've been telling Jeff how to handle Patty, and I've been telling Richard.
We've been competing with one another.
Oh, boy.
What made you decide to help Richard?
Oh, I don't know. I lost my head. No, actually, I like Richard, and besides, Jeff is just a little too perfect.
I know. That's why he doesn't have a chance with Patty. We women like him, perfect men.
Oh, I wondered how I got you.
How do you like your daughter?
We like her.
In early tonight.
You know Jeff, old delivered to the door at 9:38. Well, he's become very domineering lately. I like it.
What about Richard?
Oh, he's great. He's always thinking up new things to do. Have you ever heard of a corn husking contest in New York? Well, bye.
A corn husking contest? You know, darling, I think your contender's in trouble.
No, Patty is not here. Goodbye. Hello? No, Patty is not here. Yes, I'll give her a message. She'll be back very soon. Goodbye. Jeff. Every time I talk to him, I feel like saluting.
Hi, folks. What's up?
AT&T. There've been several thousand calls for you in the last few hours. I feel like an answering service.
Who called?
Jeff 3 times, Richard 4 times, some boy named Scotty 3 times, a girl named Ann, Otto 8 times.
Wonder what Ann wanted.
Probably your own number.
Jeff and Richard want to speak to you very urgently.
Poor dears. I guess it's about the big dance. I really shouldn't keep them in suspense any longer.
Well, we shall await the outcome anxiously.
Good night, girls.
Good night, Mom. Papa. Patty? Hi, Kath. I just ran into Maggie. She was telling me about her date for the dance. Oh, so she finally hooked somebody, huh? That's great. Who's she going with? Colonel Jeffrey Davis III. What? There's some mistake. It must be some other Colonel Jeffrey Davis III. There's a mistake. But I'm afraid you made it, Patty. He was so sure from the way you talked that you were going with Richard that he asked Maggie. If there's anything I can't stand, it's a fickle man. All right? I'll go with Richard. I'm afraid you won't. Who says so? Richard. He's taking Sue Ellen. Sue Ellen is going with my Richard? Now, don't blame Richard. He was so sure from the way you spoke that you were going with Jeffrey that he asked Sue Ellen. Oh, boy. I'm sorry, Patty. You know what just happened to me? In 60 seconds, I went from femme fatale to just plain old fatal. Gee, you look great, Kath. Thank you. Are you sure you won't change your mind, Patty, and come to the dance? George's cousin would be happy to take you. No, thanks. I don't want charity. Besides, I have a date, and we're not going to any pokey old dance. Do you really have a date? Cross my heart. Is it someone new? I've never been out with him before. All right, then. Have fun. You too. Bye.
I'm sorry you had to miss the dance, darling.
Oh, well. Can't win them all.
Patty, do you remember that Aesop fable about the fox and the chicken?
Sure, Papa. This fox had a chicken in his mouth, and he was passing over a river, and he saw his reflection in it. And he thought it was a bigger chicken, so he dropped the one he had. And he lost them both. Moral. Be happy with the chicken you've got.
I'm ready.
Okay, let's go then.
What's playing?
Well, what do you care? How many times do you get treated to a movie by a femme fatale?
Don't wait up for us.
Here's Kathy, who's lived most everywhere, from Zanzibar to Berkeley Square.
But Patty's only seen the sights a girl can see from Brooklyn Heights. What a crazy pair. But they're cousins, identical cousins, and you'll find they laugh alike,
They walk alike,
at times they even talk alike.